Okay, well, good morning, and thank you, first of all, to all the organizations who helped set this up, and especially to all the women who are joining us today to speak out and tell their own story about what the right to safe, legal abortion has meant for them. Today, Senate Republicans are continuing their mad dash to try to confirm a judge to the Supreme Court who would roll back women's rights. A judge who was vetted by far-right groups and nominated by President Trump to keep his campaign promise to overturn Roe v. Wade. We are not about to let this country forget what it was like in the dark days when women did not have the right to make their own decisions about their own bodies, which is why we are standing up and speaking out and sharing stories about what the right to safe legal abortion has meant for so many people. Like many men and women across the country, I remember life before Roe. I was in college. A close friend of mine went out on a date. She was raped and she got pregnant. She did not know where she could turn for a safe abortion, and she didn't know if she could afford one. Instead, she ended up getting a botched procedure which left her unable to have children the rest of her life. I saw my friend hurt and frightened, alone, and unable to get the care she needed because someone else's beliefs mattered more under our laws than her health and her future. That impacted me a lot and has stayed with me to this day, and her story is one of so many. I've heard from women and men across the country sharing their own stories. Stories from before Roe, from women who had to seek out back alley abortions, women who received poor care and faced botched procedures, women who ended up unable to have children, women who died. And I've also heard stories from after Roe v. Wade. Stories like those of the many women who shared the difficult decision to end a pregnancy due to a medical complication, or who sought out an abortion after being raped, or the woman who shared her decision to seek an abortion as she separated from an abusive partner, and the many women who felt it was not the right time for them to have a child for any number of reasons, whether they were focused on pursuing their education or furthering their career or caring for their family or doing what is best for them. Like the single mother of two who wrote to me about her decision to get an abortion shortly after she managed to move her family out of a homeless shelter. And like the brave women here today who will speak in just a moment to share their own personal stories. Women and men across the country are sharing these deeply personal stories because they want to be sure there is no question about what is at stake here today. Women's rights are at stake. Their health is at stake. Their economic security is at stake. Women's lives are at stake. We know why President Trump nominated Judge Kavanaugh. We know why far-right groups are cheering this nomination. We know why extreme Republicans are rushing as fast as they can to try and get him confirmed. They are dead set on locking in a fifth vote to the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. We are not about to stand aside and let them roll back women's rights. We will not be still. We will not be silent. We will not go back. We will stand up. We will speak out. And we will share our stories and lift up the stories of others and make it absolutely clear how much is at stake for families across this country in this Supreme Court fight. I'm very grateful to the women and men who are gathered here, especially for their courage in sharing their stories. And we want them to know we're going to keep fighting with women around the country to make sure we don't move backward on women's rights in this country. Now, before I close, I do want to comment on the new document that has been sealed by Republicans and just came out. Judge Kavanaugh has been pretending he would not overturn Roe v. Wade by hiding behind the idea that it's, quote, settled law and, quote, precedent. That's what he has been saying in his hearings so far, and he's hoping that will fool women across the country into thinking their rights and freedoms are safe. We know that is not true. A ruling, even as important as Roe, is settled law and precedent only until someone like Judge Kavanaugh and 4 other ideological justices on the Supreme Court vote to overturn it. This new document confirms our worst fears. In 2003, when Judge Kavanaugh was working in the White House, he received an email containing a draft op-ed defending President Bush's court nominees, which said, quote, "It is widely understood, accepted by legal scholars across the board, that Roe v. Wade and its progeny are the settled law of the land." When Judge Kavanaugh saw that, he objected. He didn't think that was true. He wrote back, and this is important, I quote, "I am not sure that all legal scholars refer to Roe as the settled law of the land at the Supreme Court level, since court can always overrule its precedent, and 3 current justices on the court would do so." End quote. So, to be very clear, Judge Kavanaugh personally highlighted that precedent can be overturned. And he was literally counting the number of judges who stand ready to overturn Roe v. Wade. It was 3 then. It is 4 now. Judge Kavanaugh will be the 5th on the bench, and Roe v. Wade will be overturned. We knew it before. This new document absolutely confirms it, and women everywhere should be concerned. And it leads to another question on the minds of many of us. What else are they hiding? What else is in these documents that only a few have been able to see? And that's why we're having this conference today. It's why it's so important that we speak up and speak out.